The United States and Iran exchanged fire overnight for the 11th straight night. U.S. Central Command said targets included aircraft hangars and drone storage sites as Iran retaliated with attacks on U.S. bases in Bahrain, Jordan, and Kuwait. The latest strikes come as President Trump signaled yesterday that the fighting may only intensify. Speaking to reporters in the Oval Office, Trump said the U.S. is prepared to hit the area of Pickaxe Mountain, a fortified underground site near one of Iran's primary nuclear enrichment facilities.
Do you believe that Iran has moved nuclear centrifuges into Pickaxe Mountain? And when you say we're not done yet, what is left to finish?
Well, I think that they may have. We don't have it on record. All we do is read the fake news. You know, we see the news is so wrong so many times. So, maybe this one they have right, but it's okay. It doesn't mean anything unless they have the material. You're talking about the centrifuges. Yeah, it doesn't mean anything unless they have the material. They don't have. We follow the material. That's where the action is, and we'll be hitting that area probably pretty soon. And there's not a thing they can do about it. Normally I wouldn't say that. If I thought they could do something about it, I would never say that. But we'll be hitting that area pretty soon, and very heavily.
That threat from the president comes after the Wall Street Journal reported that the U.S. received intelligence from Israel indicating Iran moved thousands of uranium enrichment centrifuges to the Pickaxe Mountain site last fall. President Trump yesterday also threatened military action against the Iran-backed Houthi group as he continues to suggest a willingness to escalate.
What is your level of concern of a blockade of the Red Sea by the Houthi rebels, opening up another front in the war?
See what happens. So far, it hasn't happened. Might happen. But we take care of things. If something like that happens, we take care of it. We've done that with the Houthis before, and we haven't heard from them in a while since we did what we did originally. That was about 45 days of very powerful action we took against the Houthis. And we've had no problem with the Houthis. They've had no problem with us for a long period of time, including during this conflict. I think that if there is something like that, we'll just have to take care of business.
And of course, following the deaths of U.S. service members and those growing tensions in Iran, President Trump is saying Tehran still wants a deal. But when pressed on where things stand with the fighting by ABC White House correspondent Mary Bruce, the president instead lashed out, saying she doesn't know anything.
Mr. President, there are no signs that Iran is ready to stop fighting. So what is the plan? Is the plan to just keep bombing until they give up?
There are no signs. Why, do you know something that I don't know?
Well, they continue to attack our allies and
You
kill
don't know
Americans.
what the dialogue is behind the scenes, that they want to meet desperately to try and end it because they're getting decimated. You don't get that when you listen to your fake station, but you don't know. You don't know anything.
So talks are
you know
still
something
possible,
that I don't know? Do you know something I don't know?
Well, tell us.
I will tell you, they want to desperately meet, and until they're ready to meet in a meaningful way, we have no interest.
Mary asking exactly the right questions there of the president. Meanwhile, there were a lot of questions on Capitol Hill because Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth was testifying there yesterday before the Senate Appropriations Committee, where he's seeking tens of billions of additional dollars to fund the Iran war. Hegseth estimated the war has cost $37.5 billion so far, which is about a $12 billion increase from the estimate he gave in late April, the last time he testified. The defense secretary argued supplemental war funding is urgent and necessary, but over the course of nearly 3 hours, lawmakers grilled Hegseth about the ballooning cost of the conflict, as well as the administration's military actions in Iran.
When you say two very different things, the American people don't know who to believe or what to believe. Was it obliterated or wasn't it? What's the status?
The nuclear sites under Midnight Hammer were obliterated, but Iranians foolishly continued to attempt to pursue nuclear capabilities, which is why we destroyed their defense industrial base.
So why are there missiles left to hit Jordan and result in the loss of life of our brave men and women?
As we stated from the beginning, the Iranian defense industrial base is effectively gone, but they do have underground facilities because they're the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism.
Here to lead us off, former spokesperson for the U.S. mission to the United Nations, Hagar Shamali. She also worked at the NSC and the Treasury Department. Staying on Hegseth right there, I think that Secretary Gillibrand was one of several senators to seize on the ways that Hegseth specifically has talked in really bombastic language about the successes of the U.S. military here and the obliteration and decimation of Iran, whether it's their military or nuclear programs. And if that were the case, and what senators were trying to seize on is, if that's true, why are we in this continued posture of 5+ months of war with Iran? And I wonder if you can help us square that circle between what he's saying and what's actually happening.
Well, some of it is this bombastic rhetoric that you had, but particularly it was at the beginning of the war when you had those 6 weeks that were very intense. And that level, they kind of left off there. Those were the last talking points they left off at. But by the way, when you have situations like this is common in war where you have ceasefires, but they're very murky. You still have war that kind of continues, or a low-level grade of war. It actually just ends up being an opportunity for sides to go back, rearm, rebuild, re-strategize. And I see a little bit of that. Number one, I see a little bit of that with the Iranian regime. They have actually moved things outside of rubble, including missile launchers and things like that. But on the other end, of course, there's the exaggeration of the use of the word obliterated. And that's what Congress is being frustrated at. They're frustrated at not getting a clearer picture on this.
At not getting a clearer picture, especially because last summer you had the bombings with B-52s of various nuclear sites, and the administration saying everything's completely obliterated. And then one of the things that lawmakers were seizing on was this idea that the reason that this Iran war, in theory, began when it did was because Iran was all of a sudden 2 weeks away from some kind of imminent threat or imminent nuclear weapon. And again, it is that mismatch of information, the reality versus what the administration is presenting, that is frustrating these lawmakers at a time where you have the president continuing to threaten an escalation. You've got the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Dan Kane, yesterday sitting alongside Pete Hegseth talking about strikes on desalinization plants and other escalations that this administration is talking about making and might in real time be making. And so where does it go next?
Yeah, well, and now you have these service members that have just been killed, right? And so now the president is in a position where he has to respond. He has to do something. We can't leave the Iranian regime in the state that we're in. We can't have a Libya sitting next to the UAE and our partners in the Gulf, and we can't have this continuing to be a threat. The issue here is that, and I've said this from the beginning, that the administration, it would have benefited the administration to be as clear as possible and to communicate as possible. Now, because it helps their own goals. Now, yes, they talked about nuclear goals at the beginning. It was also regime change. The goalposts moved. Fine. Regime change didn't happen the way that the administration thought it would. We can talk about the different ways this war could have been executed. But at the end of the day, U.S. military intervention, it frustrates me as a foreign policy person because U.S. military intervention is often more good than bad. But in order for that to be, you need to have clear objectives, you need to have international legitimacy, and you need to have an exit. And so the administration would behoove the administration in the fact that they're asking for more money right after service members have been killed on top of it. Go in there and be clear and say, goalposts have moved. This is the new goal. This is how we're going to do it. We've gotten the support of the Gulf, for example, and this is our exit plan. And then Congress will at least listen.
And one of the contingencies throughout the original phase of U.S.-Iran negotiations was something has to happen in Lebanon, specifically between Lebanon and Israel. So let's put our focus there, because President Trump is now lifting a more than 40-year ban on flights to Lebanon. The embargo was initially put in place back in 1985 when Hezbollah hijacked a flight, leading to a standoff that killed a U.S. Navy sailor. In his announcement, Trump did not explain the reasoning for rolling back this ban now or how soon it will formally be lifted. The president only wrote that he's directing the Federal Aviation Administration to, quote, allow all U.S. airline carriers to fly directly to Lebanon so that Americans can easily visit this beautiful land. He went on to say that he hopes other countries will follow his footsteps. Trump also didn't specify any security precautions for these flights, as Israeli forces have resumed gunfire on the ground in Lebanon. That announcement came shortly after the president's meeting with Lebanese President Joseph Aoun at the White House, the first visit by a Lebanese president there since 2009. And so, of course, when we consider the different parts of the U.S.-Iran conflict, this has always been a pretty important tangent that almost underplays what it is. But there are still active negotiations happening right now that the U.S. is trying to broker to bring more peace to that region. So I wonder what you saw in the president's meeting yesterday and the fact that that announcement came out of it.
Yeah, well, so the MOU is not working anymore.
Sure.
This is the only peace process that is actually working. Yeah. This presidential meeting is an example of that. You also had meetings last week in Rome that were very successful, where all sides rolled up their sleeves and got to work on how they execute the framework agreement they all signed a few weeks ago. And what was so great about the meeting yesterday was that President Aoun came in and was basically asking for support for the Lebanese armed forces, as the only real institution that can disarm and dismantle Hezbollah. Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to pretend that it's going to be easy. Nobody is. All the parts have to move simultaneously for this to work. But there was real hope there. And on the announcement you noted about the flights going back, this is what dominated headlines in Lebanon. And the reason for that is that not only because it's symbolic for them, it will bring money for them, it's also very indicative of the light at the end of the tunnel if they continue on this path of peace. It's reintegration into the world, international financial ties, and so on. And so it was very loudly welcomed. It may take time for it to actually take off, but it's exciting.
And I think it's important for us, even as we watch U.S.-Iran talks go completely off the tracks, this is something that is very much on the tracks, a focus of Secretary of State Rubio and others in the admin. Hagar Chemali taking us through all of it. Thank you, as always. Great to see you.